Of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, hello, everybody. This is going to be a full day. I got Collin Gregory, and I have Officer Joe Byrom from the Community Resource Department, I guess we call it. And we're going to talk about social media and also the impacts and the dangers it presents to our youth. And you have a prepared program you go through, right?
Yes, sir.
And so you go through this, not just with us, but also with anybody that'll listen practically, like churches and community groups and PTAs and all that, I'd imagine.
Yes, sir.
That's good. And
yeah, that's the nice thing is that we're kind of starting off new, and so that's something that we're going to be offering churches and schools and any sort of small group that we can possibly get into.
Well, it's definitely a worthwhile thing.
Absolutely.
Because you were kind of joking with me when you said you were there at the birth of social media, but I actually was. I was there, before internet was even a thing at the schools. But when it hit the schools, there is some impact, yes, and good and bad. And we'll talk about all about that. But first, let's talk about the sponsors because they make all this kind of stuff possible. I really appreciate what they do for our community. Our Place Restaurant with Otto, I'm sure everybody knows this. I'm sure Officer Byrom has been there before.
Absolutely.
He really appreciates having the police in this place. I don't know what kind of deal he has with them, but I eat there breakfast every other Thursday with the men in my Sunday school class, and there's always Burleson and Fort Worth police there.
When you have pancakes like that?
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if they have a special arrangement or not, but they do love the food, and it's nice to have police officers there. It's free security. Also, are you aware, Officer Byrom, that he owns Gina's Pizza now?
Collin just told me that just a couple days ago. That was a topic of discussion.
Well, us old timers, how long have you been in Burleson?
All my life. I'm third generation here.
Right, Gina's Pizza then, right?
So funny you say that is because I guess my mom and dad never took me there whenever I was growing up here, and then I just never went to it as a 16-year-old driving and up. So I really didn't know about it.
Joe had a sad childhood.
No kidding. They have telethons for people like you, sir.
That's
right?
true.
But no, it was a traditional pizza joint, and now Otto's going to upgrade it a little bit, add a few things in the menu, and you have a glass of wine with the pizza.
Sounds good.
Yes. I mean, pizza with tea just don't cut it to me. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, Our Place Restaurant. You know it. You love it. Okay. Also, Wild Cigar. And you know this place, sir.
I do know where this place is.
Okay, good. Wild Cigar is having a special event tomorrow. One of their bigger vendors is coming, Perdomo, I guess, if you cigar listeners out there know the brands. And they're going to have a big venture out there. Also, tonight, when I get to another sponsor, they're going to be helping one of my other sponsors in their event. Also, Tiffany Nico with Local Life. The magazine's out. It's everywhere. 30,000 homes get it. You see multiple copies at any retail or place. Last time I was getting my car inspected, there it was. There was right on the coffee table about 8 or 9 copies, and so it gets a lot of coverage. And so check out her magazine, and also she can help you with your social media and all that goes with it. It's not just enough just to buy advertising. You got to have the whole platform now, and she can help you with that. Also, this is who I was referring to, Southern Jim. Wild's helping them out tonight with their bourbon and bling. So if you hear this today, be sure between 4 and 7 drop on by. They have a lot of jewelry on sale, up to 50% in some cases. Is there a Mrs. Byrom?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then you need to go. But from 4 to 7, they're going to have bourbon and bling. And so you could have a sip and take a look and whatever else, or bring the wife and she can look, and she'll have... She has this bullpen area with the TV, and she'll have it going on. And I've been to 2 or 3 of her events before. She does this about every couple of months, and it's a lot of fun because Gayla likes to entertain. Plus,
Joe, we can sit in the corner together because I think Mrs. Gregory wants to go as well. So,
well, you need to go because, like I said, a lot's on sale. Valentine's is next week. I like the way Valentine's kind of grabs you right after Christmas. It's like, oh, I made it. Oh, wait, there's Valentine's. And if you get past that, oh, wait, it's Easter, and like it can't get away. But anyway, so, but it's a very, very nice store. You've been in it. And so
I have. It's wonderful, wonderful.
Also, thank you to our friends over at Two Maids. Brenda Ramirez made her presentation to our BNI networking group yesterday, and they really have a great system. They do all sorts of cleaning. They do the cleaning at the Windmiller building, for example.
Oh, great.
That whole complex, Gala's included. And also they do homes, and they do businesses, and they do all sorts of things. And how you pay them is you rate how well they do, as opposed to an hourly rate or a set fee or whatever. They come, they do the job, and then you rate them. And the better the rating, the more the ladies get paid. And it really is a pretty good concept, because not only you're going to get a better job, hopefully, I'm quite sure, in fact, because Brenda does, she's very particular about who she hires. I'll put it that way. It isn't like just filling a spot. There is a process to become one of these ladies at two maids, because they get paid better than the average.
I think my wife might actually like this for Valentine's more than the jewelry.
Well, have her call 817-764-0733, or you can just text. See, I'm already confusing everybody. twomaidscleaning.com/Burleson. Get on the interwebs.
Yeah, so that's to be a website.
Yeah.
On the internet.
Internet. Sorry. Okay. But anyway, they 3 or 4 of the people in BNI use her for their homes, and they just rave about it. They think
Great.
Yeah. Also, our friends at Old Pro Roofing here in Old Town, John Williams, 817-734-2756. They'll come check your roof out. John will tell you if you needed repairs, new roof, or tell you if you're just fine and dandy. And, he came to my house 3 or 4 months ago, checked it out, said, no, you're good to go. And apparently he told us yesterday there was some weather over in West Burleson, Joshua area just recently, high winds and stuff like that. And so if you're in that area, you definitely need your roof checked, because a lot of people eyeball it and they think, hey, it looks okay. Yeah. And he'll show you about 15 different problems if you have them. Also, here's a couple of old friends, not old, but a long-time friends, Sammy Campbell and Candy Gadd. Did you go to high school with Sammy?
Sammy, yes.
Yeah. All right. Y'all were probably in the same general vicinity, I guess, in your graduation. But Sammy and Candy have been doing mortgage work for 20 years. I've used them twice in other stops. Now they have their own place. So call Sammy over at Camco at 817-778-4592 or Candy at 817-925-2661. They're still here in town. They're at the B&G complex in that southern building on the 3rd floor. All right. I guess I should lead it off. Last week, we were talking about this prior to the show. I was watching the news, and they had this hearing at the Senate where Senator Graham of South Carolina just blasted Zuckerberg and the rest of the crew. They were having a hearing about. They had Zuckerberg and the head of TikTok and the head of Instagram and the head of one I hadn't even heard of, Discord. That's a new one for me. All right. But basically he said, you all have blood on your hands. And another senator, Senator Hawley of Missouri, said, well, Mr. Zuckerberg, here's your chance. And the crowd, the gallery was packed, said, won't you apologize to these parents? And he stands up and, and the parents, what they were there for, they were holding signs of their kids that had committed suicide because of social media, cyberbullying, or other aspects of it. And so it was like maybe 3 dozen people, and they're holding up signs of their kids who would just, I guess, got emotionally disturbed enough to kill themselves. And Zuckerberg says, I'm sure sorry for your pain. Okay. How nice. He's sorry for the pain. He's not sorry that he may be involved in allowing this to happen on their platforms.
Right.
But, I thought that was an interesting moment. Zuckerberg's been in the news a lot for his Facebook, for the political aspects of it and all this other stuff.
Which I think really leads into, one of the things that we want to talk about today, because leaving your children unsupervised in social media and some of the things that Officer Byron's going to be talking about, some of the other apps and websites that they have access to. It used to be something that I don't think a lot of people even batted an eye at. But now, I mean, there's the social media aspect of peer, but there's also the social media aspect and things that Officer Byron is going to be talking about predators out there, searching for your children.
We had an event like that happen in our home when my son was much younger. He's 31 now, but this is back when, interactive games became more common. And even a lot of, at the time, a lot of companies other than internet-related companies had like these websites they can play a game. Like there's the one my son liked was put on by Coca-Cola. you know, and it's a means of marketing coke, right? But we never let them have computers in their rooms, and it was in the den, and he comes running in there and says, "Dad, somebody's saying things to me. It scares me." He was like 8th grade. I went and go checked it out. And it was a guy basically saying, "Hey, let's get together," kind of thing. And he shut that game down.
Yeah.
And we reported it to Coke, and I bet they had it to others because they took the game down pretty soon. But it frightened him. It frightened us because just how easy it was. I mean, Coca-Cola wasn't intending for that to happen, but it did. And so, but you and Taylor have already connected on the slides and all this other stuff. So I'm going to let y'all do most of the talking. You don't have to include me in every conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I may just jump in and interject every now and then, but y'all take over the show because this is an important topic.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. So, first of all, let's just introduce Officer Byrom, some of the things that he does for the Burleson Police Department.
Yeah, so I'm Officer Byrom with the Burleson Police Department. I've been there for about 13 years. Primary is the coordinator for the ministers and officers for Greater Burleson. Try to make contact with all the pastors and ministers in our city at least once a month, once a quarter or so, and reach out to them and keep the communication and relationship open with them in the police department. And then also the coordinator for the Guardian program. So the Guardian program is related to anybody in our city that has a cognitive issue where they are nonverbal, such as autism, or they don't remember who they are, where they live, such as dementia and Alzheimer's. And then also an instructor, teach different classes, such as what we're going to go over today, and then some other jobs within the police department. So Taylor, if we can go to the second slide. So starting out with what we're seeing here, I mean, there's your Discord right there on this first slide that you mentioned. But then we also have Twitch and Minecraft, Roblox. I mean, all these right here are games that, or video platforms or chat platforms that kids can get onto and communicate with each other and with other people. Watch videos of other kids playing with different toys or playing a game. However, two of these, one is being used now with OnlyFans. There are OnlyFans people that are coming on to Twitch and accessing people within the Twitch platform. And then with others, there's a scenario that happened not too long ago where a subject used one of these apps and got a hold of a young lady and over the app, and asked her name and her phone number, and then got her mom and dad's names and their phone numbers, and then he started saying, "Okay, hey, send me a photo of yourself," and she's like, "I don't know if I want to do that." And he goes, "Okay, well, I'll just text your mom and dad or call your mom and dad, let them know that you've been talking to me." And she doesn't want her phone taken up or get in trouble, so she sends a picture of him, and then at that point, she, he's like, "Hey, send me more and more and more." And then it eventually gets to the point where she ends up harming herself in the end.
Right. And that Zuckerberg hearing I was talking about, they had an interview with a young lady who at 14 had that very same scenario happen to her. And now she's like 18, but, she tried to commit suicide when she was younger. And fortunately, her parents were caught it in time. But the story you just related, I had a friend that happened to about 5 years ago where somebody started extorting their son who has cognitive issues, all right? And he didn't know what to do and all this other stuff. Oh, don't worry about that. That's just my diabetes thing. Yeah, I get it. Don't worry about that. It goes off. Yeah. Anyway.
We're the police here, not the fire.
Right. Well, what happened is that somebody figured out this young man had these kind of cognitive issues, and they were trying to extort $5,000 from him by saying, "We'll make up this lie about you." Well, my friend's father, or the father, got on and basically said, "Bring it, because you'll be guilty of exploiting a young man with issues, and we'd just love to sue you." And so it stopped. But not everybody has a parent to intervene like that.
Yeah, but on top of that, I can't tell you how many times that I will go to a restaurant or a grocery store and just see kids on phones or tablets, and are they being monitored? Did the parents turn off the communication on the messaging or video platforms on it, so that the kids can't see or hear or talk to certain people. And then are they monitoring it? Are they, and what we'll go into later is, are the parents taking the phones from the kids and going through them randomly at different times of the day, different times of the week?
How long has this program been available?
Brand new. We actually have only presented it once to a couple of school counselors to get their thoughts and kind of what direction we should go with it, whatnot. What our goal, like Collin said earlier, is try to get into Wednesday night groups. My thought process would be, while kids are having church, have the parents at the church as well, and me teaching them about this platform, about what's going on.
Well, a lot of parents are, particularly the older ones like myself, we find this bewildering. We can't keep up with all this. And, I talk to kids, I still teach adjunct classes, and I talk to young people, and there's so much more familiar with all these things. I'm like I said, last week is the first time I ever heard of Discord.
Well, and Brad, that's something that we were having this discussion yesterday in one of our meetings, just lingo and the things that are, because these apps, the ones that we're looking at right now, most parents probably look and say, well, I've got Minecraft on my kid's video game system, or my kid watches Twitch, but he only watches these things, and I monitor them, which is great. But these apps are getting out so quickly; they're fastly being, they're readily available for anybody. They're put out there. The kids are able to access them because they talk about it at school. They talk about it, when they're at church together. And they're running through. And for the majority of the time, it's probably these kids connecting one-on-one with each other. But it's the access that's granted when you go in and you start doing all the permissions at the very beginning. And if you're not limiting that, my daughter is 8 years old, and we've had to go through a lot of her stuff. Because we had something, kind of similar to that. And I think it was, I think it was something innocent, but who knows? We stopped it right at that point when a communication started, and we took all the restrictions off, and she can play Minecraft and do all those wonderful things without interacting with other people. But, these kids are able to access this. And a lot of times parents, they say, they download it because they have full permissions on their phone. Their parents don't even know these apps are out there. And when they do, it's something colorful like this. And so why would anything like this harm my kid?
Right. I've heard of Fortnite. When it came out, it really was a sensation. I don't know if it's still as popular, but it is. Okay. Yep. But I just remember when it came out, and some of my students, I was teaching at Southwest Christian, and several of the young men had it on their laptops. See, when I think of social media problems as a teacher, it's like just trying to keep their attention, keep them off their phone. Most of the time it's texting and all this, but sometimes it'd be like shopping or see what's on the ESPN news page, or they'd be on Facebook or whatever. And, so I had to constantly monitor that. To me, I thought was the most serious problem, was how was it impacting the education, but I'm sure y'all have worse stories than that.
And to add what Collin said too, is a lot of parents will put those restrictions on those apps and then leave the kids to their own devices because they think that those restrictions are going to keep them safe, and they may not. But as a parent, your job is to be nosy in your kid's life until they're 18 and they're out of the house. That's your job, to keep them safe. And so we can move on to the next slide as well. And we're going to go through these next couple of slides pretty quick. So these are, just different platforms for little older situations, except for Threema and Google. 4 years old, you can see there, WhatsApp, Wicker, and Signal. 12. But these are just apps that you can communicate. Apps like Telegram. The Ukrainian army is using Telegram to communicate with each other because it has one of the highest platforms security. Nobody can hack into the system. It's just it's almost unhackable. That's why they're using it.
My BNI group uses WhatsApp, and I don't use it very often, if at all. Not because of what we're talking about here, but primarily because it's just one more thing for me to keep up with. There's so much out there, and just one more platform, and my bandwidth is getting narrow. So as I get older,
absolutely, we can move on to the next slide. You see Zoom, Skype, WebEx, Google Meet. So Zoom, they had a problem at some points where somebody would hack into, the school Zoom that the teacher was having and put pornographic material on it with the kids in the classroom, right? And it's just, it got hacked into a couple times. I mean, they shut it down. And then put it back up. But I mean, during COVID, that was going rampant.
We use Zoom for this company I work for on a contract basis, curriculum design company. And we also use Restream. That's what we use here, isn't it, Taylor?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I personally like Restream better. But that does it? Do people get my English correct? Do people have the ability to like hack into our meetings and find out what's going on? Or is that possible? Or is there some way that what I'm saying on a Zoom call be tracked by somebody who has no business doing
Sure,
that?
anything's possible.
Yeah, I
when
would
it comes
say
to
that-
tech stuff.
Yeah, I think anything is hackable.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll move on to the next slide. So you have Instagram, Snapchat, Moco Space. The instructor of the class that I went to last July, which is where I got a lot of this information from, he said that pretty much that if your kid is on Moco Space, he said 100% of the time they're being solicited. 100% of the time.
That's another one I don't know.
Yep.
I'm still looking for Zynga and MySpace, but
Yeah. Those are, I don't really cover those, I guess, in this class. I mean, they're just older.
yeah.
But
Wow.
Whisper, Snapchat, a lot of people think that Snapchat goes away. According to the federal government, they have laws that whenever you send a snap, and even if Collin sees it 10 seconds, it vanishes and he can never see it again. Well, guess what? It's at Snapchat on their servers because by federal law, they're required to maintain it for a certain amount of time.
There's no such thing that disappears once it's on.
No, it's on the
online.
internet. It's done.
Yeah.
So, and we can move on to the next slide. So, talking about Instagram, you can talk about Finstagram and Rinstagram. So, a Finstagram is your fake Instagram account, and your Rinstagram is your real Instagram account. So you can see that children may use their Finsta to hide bad or illegal behavior, such as bullying, sexually explicit photos, and underage drinking or drug use. However, I will caution the parents out there that may do what I'm about to show them how to do here in a second to find out if they have a Finstagram, that some kids use the Finstagram to quote unquote spy on the other person that's wanting to be friends with them so they can figure out if they're legit or see if they're really a nice person. They want to be friends with them. And then they'll be friends with them on their Rinstagram. So their Finstagram's not always going to be bad, but you need to be aware of what that is. We can go on to the next slide. There's the Rinstagram. So this is your real Instagram account. The person's main account on Instagram. They post photos and videos on the account that they want their followers to see. And then this term can be used only because of the Finstagram term.
On the Finstagram, is that something separate from the Instagram?
No, we'll get to that. So we can go to the next slide.
Uh-oh.
So you can see the differences between Rinstagram and Finstagram. So these are just examples that we provide of what a parent may see on their Rinstagram. So if you have a daughter that's over there on the far left, that is out with her friend, and all you can see is her Instagram. They're outside their house, taking pictures, smiling. But then on her Finstagram, she may be high on methamphetamine or whatever it is, and taking a picture of herself and putting it on the Finstagram.
Well, I guess Instagram is owned by Zuckerberg, right?
Right.
This is something else he owns, or is this like a
No. So if we go to the next slide.
The words Rinsta and Finsta, they just mean, it's not a different or separate app.
Okay.
These are just a fake Instagram and a real Instagram.
And so you can get a fake Instagram account.
You
Just
can make as many accounts as you want.
right.
So if you see here, you have Instagram. If anybody knows what Instagram looks like, they know this screen right here. So this is a screen that I've kind of blurted out, just whatever was on there. But then if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, that's your profile, the circle with a little face in it. If you press and hold that, a new window will open up, and that's where all the accounts will be for that person.
Well, see, I have Instagram for this show, but I don't use it very regularly. But my sponsors use it. But are they in any danger of being hacked or broken into in this sense? Or am I? I mean, I don't. Like I said, the only time I use Instagram is to promote the show, or promote the sponsors when they have something on their Instagram. We all share it and send it out. But
Anybody hacking on your Instagram is going to be a Zuckerberg type of thing, not, if you don't share your passwords, it's probably a good way of doing it.
It just never even occurred to me that I could make multiple Instagram accounts and put trash on it.
Yeah,
I'd never even thought about that.
And
it's kind of frightening.
They'll put
Are
a
you saying
different
you're
name
about
on
to do
it.
that, or
Are you?
Well, no.
are you now you know how to do it?
I
so
don't.
you're gonna get out there.
I'll probably be on Instagram less, because I do have a tech phobia.
Yeah.
When I mentioned that curriculum design company, the learning curve is steep on their apps and whatever else. And it was like I'm so far lost half the time, and so I called the tech support person who's about 25. And that kind of thing. But it just never occurred to me that on a platform as widely spread as Instagram, that you can make all these fake accounts. But I guess I should. People do that on Facebook all the time.
Well, and that's the problem we run into is that parents don't know this either. If they're not tech savvy or they have their children's Facebook, they have their children's Instagram, they have their children's TikTok, and they look through them and they say, well, there's nothing. My child is doing nothing wrong. Look at all these wonderful little posts. It's them and whatever they're eating today, not knowing their kid has 3 or 4 different accounts where they're putting all the stuff that they're not supposed to be doing, so that friends can see that.
Well, we get this problem sometimes on Facebook with fake accounts. They'll try to make comments on the show or something like that, and I just ignore them, and stuff like that. But it concerns me now that a young person who knows how to do these things can put a Instagram account there and put all sorts of trash about themselves or other people.
Absolutely.
If this shocks you, you're really going to be beautiful. Your mind literally will be blown here in just a little bit.
Okay, let's go for more mind blowing.
So let's go to the next slide. So we have Tumblr, YouTube, Reddit, TikTok, YouNow, Bigo. I mean, these are all just platforms to be able to make contact with video content. You can through Reddit, you can communicate about different topics and whatnot. Again, it's just ways that people can communicate with other people. So if we're not careful, people could be making contact with our children through it. Move on to the next slide.
TikTok, you can see all of Taylor's dance moves.
Yeah. I have avoided TikTok because people say I should get on it to promote the show and all that, but they all have all this conversation about the Chinese ownership of it and all this other stuff, and not that Xi Jinping is sitting around saying, "No wonder what Allard's got on his mind today," but to me, it's like the potential for misuse is so prevalent. I just don't know if I want to be part of that. Anyway, y'all got more here. Just a bunch.
So Bumble, Tinder, Hoop, Hot or Not, Meet Me, Scout. So just as an example, Meet Me is basically an app that you can communicate with other people so you can meet up and have casual sex. I mean,
it's amazing. I mean, it's like they don't even hide the intent of it.
No, not at all.
Oh, my.
Not at all. When we move on to the next slide, this slide right here is really going to be, or rather the next one is really going to blow your mind.
Okay.
So Surge, Baidu, Her, Grindr, Jack, these are going to be your LGBTQ plus apps. So this next slide is really going to blow your mind. So these right here are your vaults. So this is where you can hide your apps. This is where you can hide your messages, your photos, your videos, anything you don't want certain people to see. So as an example, you can download your calculator app. That's a vault. So whenever you, as dad, open up the phone and you see a calculator, you open it and all of a sudden you can do calculations with it. However, if you put in a 4-digit code, it opens up for you all the hidden stuff that the person put in it. If you miss the four numbers, you're wrong on the 4 numbers, then the person that has it can set up a setting on it where maybe it takes a picture from the phone who tried to enter that app. And then if they can't get into it, they put it down. When the kid opens that app and it shows that somebody tried to get into it and who it was because a photo was taken, they can be like, "Oh crap, Dad was trying to get in my app here." But another thing too is they can have it where after so many times that you put in a wrong number to get in, it'll just destroy everything in there, and that way you'll never see what was in there, and that way it deletes everything.
When my kids were younger and they had phones and all this other stuff, I think the app that concerned me most was Instagram. Not because Because I saw the potential for misuse. Okay. And Sherry Scott says, I'm glad my kids are grown. I am too. My son, it's 31, my daughter's 28, and they don't have any interest in this. But as far as, I guess as a teacher, I really started seeing this, I want to say about 2010, 11, roughly, in the last 5 or 6 years. And they were kids are throwing out these names, and I don't know what you're talking about half the time. But so basically, they could put all sorts of trash on their phone and lock it from anybody else.
Absolutely, and you won't be able to see it, whatever it was. So we can move on to the next slide.
And a parent that pulls up a phone, flips it open, sees a calculator app, probably in a folder by itself, anyways. It's the last thing they're thinking of. So it's a perfect hiding spot, just out in plain sight.
And so we actually provide practical advice for the parents, guardians that have kids that are on phones, tablets, computers, whatever it is that they have access to. Learn the technology. Take the time. Take that moment to learn the technology and the applications. Randomly check their phones, tablets, computers. Yes, parents, you're more than welcome to take your kid's device from them anytime you want to and go through it. I can tell you right now, I've got 2 kids, and when they get phones, when they get older, if I can't take their phone, or if they change the passcode on it or something like that, I can tell you right now that phone's going away, and they'll never get it back until they're old enough to buy their own phone and they're out of the house.
So Joe, on that one, express just a little bit further. As a police officer, you're saying that, not just as a parent, correct?
Oh yeah. As a police officer, you are more than welcome to take their phone and look at it. I mean, that's your parental right.
Yes, I know.
To be going through their stuff, to be looking at it.
That always got to me a little bit, is that parents are like, well, we want them to make their own mistakes. These mistakes not everybody comes back from them.
Right, exactly.
And it's like you're just allowing them basically to wander blindly, and if they fall in the ditch, add a learning experience. No.
Yep.
Sometimes these are not learning experiences; these are catastrophic. And I would talk to parents, not so much about what we're talking about here, but just like what their kids are doing in general. And they're like, "He's 16. What do you want me to do?"
Yep.
And
go through their phone.
Yeah.
Even at 16.
And I'd say you're the parent.
Absolutely.
Kids don't have any rights. They live in your home. They're 16 years old. You are the parent. You can go through their phone. You can demand to see what they have.
Absolutely.
And if they just don't want to deal with the blowback, they're risking their kid's future because they were too timid to say, "Give me your phone."
Yep. And see, as a parent, not a police officer, as a parent, they're 16 years old and they don't want to give me the phone, or they change passcodes in it, or whatever it is. I'm going to get the phone, and then I'm going to destroy the phone, and then they can have a flip phone that only they can call 911 and their parents, and that's it.
Well, we had this also at school, that teachers supposed to pick up the phones. Now, we never looked on the phones, but we were supposed to pick them up and turn them in the office, and the kid would pay a small fine or whatever, or be suspended for a day or whatever the case. But we never looked on their phones. Does a teacher or a principal have the right to look on a kid's phone?
I would say you wouldn't want to look on their phone, because you wouldn't want the litigation that could come from something that you might see on it.
Nobody I knew said, "Okay, I want to go diving in and see." They just pick it up, put it away, take it in. Never saw the screen, never did anything, because we didn't know what could happen. But we also, when we dealt with parents, had that same fear. I'm like, "What's the matter with you? Your kid can't sue you for taking up their phone."
Nope.
But
nope, not at all. But another one too is frequent talks are crucial for online safety. Discuss various issues repeatedly. Maintain an ongoing conversation with your kids about internet and phone application safety to reinforce their understanding. So if you have a 15-year-old son or daughter, you're obviously going to have that discussion, and already had that discussion of sexual intercourse with them, with anybody that they could be in communication with throughout their lives, right? You're not going to be at 12 years old say, "Hey, don't do this because it's bad," and then leave it alone, right? At 12, you're going to say something. At 12 and a half, you're going to say something. At 13, you're going to say, you may say something 5, 6, 7 times a year, or maybe even a month. why can't we do the same thing with the phone applications and with internet safety? Why can't we have that communication constantly with our children about this is why it's bad, this right here's what's going on? And that may be where you stay up to date with what's going on in the news in reference to social media and to the internet and to applications, whatnot. That way, maybe seek that information out yourself. Take a moment to see how kids are being affected by this stuff.
When I think of social media dangers, I'm thinking more, when I was thinking about this show today, I was thinking more about the mental health and the emotional health that these things are causing. We mentioned again at Zuckerberg meeting, and there were 3 dozen parents there with kids who committed suicide because they were bullied, they were shamed, or they felt like their life wasn't nearly as good as everybody else's on Facebook or whatever device they were talking about. That's what I was really concerned about. The predator aspect, I guess, really, I knew it was there, but I didn't realize just how prevalent it was there.
And see, in the actual class, we actually have a video that we show that it shows a adult male in communication with the subject's parents in working relationship with them. He makes a fake social media account with some little boy's face on it and says he's 12 years old. He makes contact with these girls and he goes, "Hey, can I come pick you up? My brother's going to be driving," is one example. And so she's like, "Yeah, my parents are asleep or they're out dating or whatever it was." But the parents are in the van with the guy. And as she comes out, he's like, "Hey, I'm here texting her. My brother's driving. I'm in the back of the van." And she's like, "Okay." She actually gets in the van with this guy, seeing the older male in there. And her mom and dad are wearing ski masks in the back. And they grab her and close the door so she can't get out. And then they eventually tell her, "Hey, it's mom and dad." And they take their ski mask off and they take her phone and they're like, "This is why we tell you not to be doing this stuff." And so it was a training thing for her, but it was a video content for him to put out to parents that say, "Hey, this is why this stuff is so dangerous."
You know, the crazy part, you had kind of mentioned it earlier. These kids, watching this video several times with Joe, the kids' reaction immediately as they're getting in, you can kind of see almost how elated they are that they're having this experience. And the moment it turns south, which none of these kids are in danger, it's a training type of thing, but the moment it hits south, these young ladies, the only thing they can say is, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," over and over and over. And you had talked earlier about, some parents saying, we want them to go out and make their own mistakes and learn their own life. I think that's one of the worst parenting moves you can possibly do. And that's just my opinion, but to have these kids, I mean, imagine if that had not been a training scenario. This little girl is thinking, "I'm about to hang out with this little kid that I have been talking to on the phone, and I've had this wonderful time," not realizing she's about to be kidnapped and all the other things that may be associated with it. And it's just that immediate, "Oh my gosh, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry." They don't even realize what they're doing is wrong until it happens.
Well, they either think it's thrilling, or they're incredibly naive, or they just don't really believe people are like that. And some of these people are just despicable to get on there. And I'm kind of like, there's so many different dangers associated with this. Like my students could be on there and they could be sharing, smut and pornographic pictures with each other, which is not a good thing. But, it's like, it's a door opener to so many other things.
Absolutely.
And a lot of these websites that are, provocative and exciting, whatever else, they got all these Trojans in them and viruses and bugs and whatever else. And once they take over your phone, take over your laptop, whatever else. So that's another thing we tell them, said, our kids in particular said, don't get on these kind of sites because you're just asking for trouble. And sometimes trouble finds you and you're, doing nothing wrong. You're just living your life, and all of a sudden you start getting spam emails of a very grotesque nature, and you're like, "How did that happen?" Well, I don't know. Somebody got a hold of my email account, or they hacked into some system that had my email account, and they just started throwing that trash on there.
Absolutely.
So, and I wasn't doing any searches that would have put me in that situation, but they found it anyway.
Right.
And so that's another thing the parents need to be aware of. I believe it's not so much the kids doing stupid stuff. They could be doing their homework on a computer, and this problem finds them. It's like my anecdote about my son. He was just playing a game on the Coca-Cola website. It was just a silly little game. It was something you'd see in Nintendo, and somehow somebody slipped through the screen, and there you are.
Which I think reinforces what Joe was saying a minute ago about, discussing this with your children, so that when an incident like that happens, they don't freak out like they're going to get in trouble. They instantly turn to you and ask, hey, I think this is not right, and you're able to take care of it.
Well, and I think I was lucky in a way because, my two kids were not particularly involved with social media at all. Like my son he never does anything. And my daughter does very little. I think, and we've talked about this before. They're not interested in social media that much because they call all the crap on it, not just the dangerous stuff, but just the junk you see and all the, and all the pop-up ads they have to deal with and all that. So they just don't really involve themselves. But a lot of people spend a lot of time online.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Collin and I have discussed, a subject like YouTube Kids. I mean, because YouTube Kids, there's been times where they try to catch it, but there's times where animated things will come through, or somebody gets murdered, or there's pornographic material, or there's, indications of suicide or something like that on there that may come in through the algorithms that hopefully they catch. But if YouTube doesn't catch it, then they don't catch it and it gets out there, then the kid sees it, and that could be a problem.
One area I think we've talked about a little bit, but we've been talking mostly about the predators and the terrible situations that people can find themselves involved in. But another thing I, as a teacher, saw more of is that what we called that FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. People, young ladies in particular, would see other girls and they're living the life and they're, and they're hanging around Taylor Swift or whatever else apparently. And, nobody asked me out. I'm not going to the prom. And it just crushes their spirit and their emotional health. And like that hearing with Zuckerberg showed, sometimes they take their own life because of it. You run across that problem some.
Yeah, I mean, so whenever I talk to my kids about stuff like that, this is going to sound funny, but I always tell them all the time, be a duck, right? So I always say be a duck, and two reasons why. One is let that water roll right off your back, right? The water comes on their back, it rolls right off their back, be a duck, right? But then also the second reason why you be a duck is because what do ducks look like when they're on the water and swimming around? They look graceful on the outside. But what are their little legs doing below the water? They're just going naughty to nothing, right? So that's why I always say be a duck and don't worry about what other people think. Don't worry about what other people are doing. You do you. You love life. You have fun doing what you're doing. And if anybody says, that they don't like you because of whatever it is, then that's their problem, not yours.
Yes, the cyberbullying aspect was pretty intense too. So it's like that was the two areas in which particularly it seemed like young ladies, and it's not because they're more emotionally fragile and whatever else, but I think they would be more open with their emotions about it. With the guys, it may be just as effective. But the boys aren't going to be quite so open in their feelings about it and tell you about it. But it happens with the guys too.
Absolutely.
Because they think, why am I not going out with a lot of girls? Look at this guy. Look at this, and they see all this other stuff going on and they feel like everybody's out partying and having a good time and I'm stuck here on a Friday night watching TV with my dad, and there must be something wrong with me. Well, and the girls, like I mentioned, may be a bit more willing to say it, but I also believe that they are more prone to desire acceptance more than the boys do. Maybe I hope I'm not sounding too sexist, but
I don't think so. I mean, with my background, I've done 10, 12 years of youth pastoring, and I would say, that's pretty spot on. Pretty spot on. I mean, the guys are going to, the crazy part was that back in the day, oh my gosh, aging. Back in the day, it was the guys would physically abuse and the girls would mentally abuse. And it was just kind of you had a bully that kind of pushed you around. And if you're a guy, you just say, go lift weights and learn how to fight. And, you'll be okay. Nobody ever gave anybody the opportunity to talk about that. It was just, get tougher and you'll make it through. And, for young ladies, I feel like it's, and I'm not a young lady by any means, but, to talk on that, they need that discussion. They need somebody they can vent to and talk to. But a lot of times they seek that out in people their own age. And you're not getting the greatest advice in the entire world with somebody your own age at that age.
Plus the body image issues.
Absolutely.
When they're growing up in high school and and they see all the stuff on the internet about what a young girl should look like, what her body shape should look like, what kind of life they should be living, and if they're if they're not that body shape or whatever, it impacts on their self-image quite a bit.
But I also believe that also comes down to the parents and what they are allowing their kids to see or watch or view or be a part of or whatever it is. And then also, are the parents telling the kids, I love you, you're beautiful, you're strong, you're handsome? I mean, are they constantly, reinforcing that to them as well? And that plays a part in their psyche as they grow up. But I mean, if you allow them to, you allow YouTube to raise your kids, then yeah, they're probably going to have self-image problems when they get older,
right?
And start expecting that soon.
And even if you do what you suggest, positive reinforcement, whatever else, that won't stop the rocks being thrown at you, but it'll make you a little bit more able to deflect the rocks.
Absolutely.
And all that. But still, way back in our day, when I first started high school, this is going to date me quite a bit, but they had what they used to call slam books.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? They were basically paper versions of Facebook, where people would write stuff in it, and they write crap about each other, and they would pass it around, and there'd be gossip topics, and there'd be slander, and there'd be all sorts of insinuations or whatever else. And then they would print them up and throw them all over the school. You don't remember this happening, do you?
I thought you were going to go with stone and chisel, but
no. Well, thank you very much. No, we were upgraded to the old calligraphy pen and the
dip it in the ink.
Like Jefferson did. Yeah,
Never heard that term before.
Well, yeah, but they would do all this crap, and then they would go make about 2 or 3 dozen copies of it. And they'd just leave it around the school, and they knew that the people would pick it up. Oh my God, do you see this?
Right.
And it'd be all over school within a day.
Yeah. Just now, it's quicker and digital.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing in just a much more primitive form.
Yeah.
And Taylor, if we can go to the next slide. So, what do you do if something has already happened? So your kid has already had or sent pictures of themselves nude to a subject, or the subject has sent news to them, or whatever it is. Obviously, don't panic. Do not engage a suspect. Do not initiate communications with that person. And then this right here is something that Collin and I have discussed that he feels should really be highlighted is do not send any information such as images, video, and text, etc., to your own phone or device, and call the police and get the police involved.
So the last thing you definitely want to do not do is, if your child has sent pornographic images and or another child maybe has sent pornographic images to your child, is to pull up that image, take a snapshot of that on your phone to send to the police, because now you've introduced child pornography onto your phone. And there's, I'm sure, a lot of legal complications behind that. Joe had mentioned it earlier. Take up your kid's phone. That's your device. You take that, you call the police, have the police come out, have them look at it, and take it from there.
Does Burleson have a officer that deals with this all the time?
So we have detectives. We have a detective, or a set of detectives that's over property crimes, and then a set of detectives that's over crimes against persons. And so basically, if you have, let's say you have 3 of each, then the sergeant of the detectives will get the cases that's sent from patrol, and then they'll divvy them out to each detective. So that way they get an even number of cases sent to them.
I would really not enjoy that part of the job.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that they deal with that
probably
I wouldn't want to do.
No, right. I mean, how can you look at stuff like that and not have it leave a mark on you?
Oh yeah,
I couldn't do it.
So we can move on to the next slide. So do you have the right to take their phone and look through it? Just like we said, yes. Yeah, according to the Texas Family Code, Title 5, Section 151.001, the duty of care, control, protections, and reasonable discipline of the child is the duty to manage the estate of the child. That is your job. You have the duty of care, control, protections, and reasonable discipline of the child. And then child, and definition for this Title V is under 18 years of age or 17 and younger. So under 18 years of age. You are allowed to put parental control apps on the children's phone, even if they bought it. Take the child's phone randomly and go through all their apps, messages, accounts, photos, etc. Check their direct messages and text messages on every social media account. You can also look and see who is following your children on the social media sites, and should be done often. And then take screenshots of messages in case they are needed later on the kid's phone. So say you have a Snapchat where the thing's going to go away in 10 seconds, you would want to take a screenshot of that on the kid's phone before it went away. That way you had evidence of what it is that they saw. So,
well, now, I did this a couple times. And when my kids were younger, and the social media apps became much more common, and they just handed me their phone because, again, I was very, very fortunate that this was not an issue in our house. But I saw it happen with others, the students, and I did see stuff like people that got drunk or in a compromising position at a party or something like that, and they'd take a picture and it'd be all over the school within 24 hours. It'd be on either texting or some other social media app. And I remember one young lady basically had moved schools because of that, because she let herself be photographed in a compromising situation.
absolutely.
And that used to happen where you could move schools and kind of get away from it. But now this is on the internet. You can't get away from it anywhere. You
Right.
can't, your age doesn't even get you away from it. This is something that, your children are going to be able to pull up, in 20 years.
Right.
So
I've always thought it was interesting about like celebrities, and they were putting out fairly trashy photos, and they have children, and they'd say, well, we don't let our kids do this. Well, they're going to find it someday.
absolutely.
And when they're older, they're going to go back and see what their mother or whoever it was, how she conducted herself online, or what kind of movie she made, or whatever else.
Yep.
And it's all there. It never goes away.
Absolutely.
Taylor,
if we can go to the next slide. So this right here is going to be your parental control apps, kind of like what I was talking about. So I put a whole bunch of them on there. I can't make any one recommendation of any company to go with. However, you can see all these different apps that you can download on your phone or your kid's phone, and how much kind of like they cost. And some of them have free features, but then if you want additional features within those apps, you'll have to have a subscription that you'd have to pay for. And then obviously each of them are going to have their pros and cons. And if we can go to the next slide, you'll have the QR codes that are going to go to the parental apps that anybody would be able to scan and go to those websites to be able to have access to how they work, how those apps work, what they offer, and then how much they cost, and any other question they may have. They may be able to find the answer through these websites.
how did you get involved in this?
So I'm a crime prevention specialist, and through the state of Texas. So that's what Collin will be going through soon. So it's 4 weeks long of schooling, and then you have to go to the state convention, which this year is going to be in Corpus Christi, and then you have to take a test that's about 300 to 600 questions long. And then once you pass it, no pressure. But once you pass it,
started looking at jobs.com.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
No. I've seen you take tests. So how many times did you get to take it?
Twice.
Okay.
So you're good. You're good. And so
Do I have an Allard over me going, hey, A, B, and C, but A and B aren't right. Right.
none of the above.
None of the above.
So,
right.
But with that being said, I got involved through the convention. I went to a class where basically there's classes all week long that you get to go to, and you can choose whatever classes you want to go to within that week, as long as you're done with your testing or you've already been certified a years prior. And so I just happened to see this on the itinerary that day, and I was like, well, I'm going to get into this class, and from there, I'm like, I can absolutely see a need in getting this information out to our community. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And you have any more slides?
yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah, if we can go to the next slide.
All right.
So here's your lingo that he was talking about. So these are only a few. When you scan this QR code, it's going to take you to a whole bunch of different lingo. But I mean,
I used that in class one time, not knowing what it meant. All right.
Netflix and chill.
The next thing, yeah, I thought it meant watching movies and hanging out, right? And so, yeah, I know. And the kids asked me, "What'd you do this weekend?" Oh, my wife and I, we Netflixed and chilled. Hey, I thought it was being hip, and they're like, "Yeah, exactly." The kids were like, "You did what?" And this young man says, "Mr. Allard, you don't know what that means, do you?" So, we watched
Obviously
movies
not.
and hung out. No, this is what it means. Like, oh my God. So.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, so it's good for parents to be able to go through these words and know what their kids are meaning, and then in the full class, we're also going to include emojis. And the emojis that we're going to include are emojis that they would use for different types of drugs, alcohol, such as heroin. There's different types of emojis for heroin and cocaine, methamphetamine, stuff like that. So if we can go to one more slide at least.
No, we'll take as much time as we need. This is important.
Okay, so this right here is the Blue Whale Challenge. I don't know if a lot of people have ever heard about this or not. So it's actually banned from almost every single country on Earth. Basically what it is that the person that would get hooked up with the Blue Whale Challenge, however that was, they would be assigned a proctor. That proctor every day would send them a message of saying, "Hey, I need you to wake up at 4:20 a.m. and watch psychedelic and scary videos that the curator sends you all day long," or "I need you to cut your lip," or "I need you to climb up a crane, or at least try to do it," whatever it is, like just different things. But there's 50 assignments, as it were, goals, dares that you're doing. And the very last one you can see is jump off a high building and take your life. That's the very last one. So eventually they're going to get you to kill yourself. And so if you don't do it, you lose. But if you do it, you lose. So,
and I know if somebody's watching this on a phone, I know that the text is real small, but as you're going through these 1 through 50, you can see everything is just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And the goal is to desensitize the person to the point where at the very end where they're just like, "Hey, take your life." It's like, "Oh, okay, this is part of the challenge," and they do it. And it was funny because Joe was trying to show me some stuff in the online. He had gone to Facebook and typed in Blue Whale Challenge and
typed in hashtag I am a whale.
That's it. Yep, absolutely. And it came back with
it came back with a message saying, if you're thinking about harming yourself, committing suicide, here's a hotline that you can call. So I mean, automatic response.
But as we've discussed, this one may be out on the interwebs that it's and been taken care of by a lot of social media platforms. But what's the next Blue Whale Challenge? What's the next thing that somebody's putting out there? This happens during the summer when your kid is probably at home by himself. Parents are both working, so the child has nothing to do. They're bored, and they get something like this, probably from somebody they've met online who has no intent other than just to see chaos. And they start walking them through this. And because this child is just bored, "No, I can do this first challenge. There's nothing hard with that." And the next one's a little bit more difficult, but it just desensitizes them to the point that they zombie out.
Our friend Melissa is on screen. She's liking the content. We need that kind of information out there. I bet, I have no doubt that you can probably get the chamber to help be an avenue for this, because they do a lot of good stuff.
I know a couple of people at the chamber. I'll give them a holler.
I do too. And Melissa was on the show yesterday, or not yesterday, Tuesday, and no, dadgummit, Monday. I'm getting old. Anyway. Stop it. Anyway, I know how, she has, children this general age. She would be very much.
She's passionate about people.
Yeah,
she absolutely is.
And this kind of thing.
Well, the next slide is really small text, and just like Collin said, you can see here though that just kind of highlighting and summarizing the different things that we've kind of gone over. So just different text. And so like you have addiction. What is addiction, right? Excessive gaming and socializing online can lead to addiction-like behavior impacting a child's social life, physical health, and academic performance, and so on and so on.
Well, like I said, when I was driving up here, I was pondering the show. I was thinking more about the emotional damage, but you're talking about, serious damage. You're talking about physical damage. You're talking about, ending of life.
And
So it's even more so than I gave it thought about. I mean, I was just thinking about how it could cause people to feel so terrible about themselves to commit suicide, but they're talking about people who are like willingly engaging in this harmful behavior.
absolutely.
And I can't even imagine the depths of hell that somebody puts this out there for this purpose that they're going to face when they see the Almighty. I mean, I'm concerned about my own, but I'd really hate to be this guy, I mean, how despicable, how debased a person must be to actually create like that blue whale challenge and do that.
Not me? Okay,
Yeah.
good. And that's, I think, what your sentiment about, when I came into this is the idea I had behind it. I had no idea. I think our closing remark for all of this is that there's a lot of parents, there's a lot of grandparents out there that have no clue this exists. And that's I think our biggest challenge and our biggest desire is, after this podcast, this is offered up to any church. This is offered up to any school, organization, daycare, any platform that we can possibly get this information out to parents, the better. Because it's even changing, as we're doing this, we're adding new stuff, and there's new stuff that comes out. And the Burleson Police Department is doing everything they can to stay in front of all of that. We have constant communication with our school resource officers, seeing what they're seeing out there. We have a gentleman that works in our office, Officer Johnson, who deals on the teen side of things. So he's going to be definitely somebody that is got his ear to the ground for all of this. So, if you have an organization, you've got a group, you've got a men's group that you want to talk to them about, and have Officer Byrom come out and teach this class. And there's a lot more. I know it probably sounded like a lot just for the show, but there's more slides and there's more things that we couldn't bring just due to the content to put online.
Yeah, maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hour long class, depending on questions, because I've got several videos that I'll be playing in it, and I'd like to add to exactly what Collin is saying, but say that it's free too.
Yeah, right.
Oh, absolutely.
Because everybody pays taxes, and your taxes go to allowing me to be able to teach this, and
Exactly.
then I can schedule my hours around certain things. I just have to schedule it on the calendar, and hopefully at least 2 weeks in advance, at least for family life and stuff like that, so I can get on paper where I'm going to be and let my wife know and stuff like that. So
How would they contact you?
so they can go to CRO@burlesontx.com. Again, it's CRO@burlesontx.com. That will go to all of the community resource department. We'll all get the email.
Taylor, can you put that in the comment section?
You got it.
All right, thank you. So people who view this will see it, but people hear it, they're just going to catch it. But
Absolutely.
but they can also, I'm sure, if they called maybe even that hotline that you and Stephanie Baird. I don't know why I just called her Sharon, but what you and Stephanie Baird talked about, I bet if they contacted victim assistance.
If you went through our victims assistance, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You're really getting traction on that, by the way. I've had several people said, I saw that at such and such place or whatever else.
It is, and actually, since Melissa's probably still watching, hopefully, she's probably watching the entire thing. The chamber has really partnered with us on that. They've been going out and helping us put those up in businesses, which is allowing the chamber to introduce themselves to a business and us discuss these types of things with them. So huge shout out to them.
Well, Sherry, thanks you for your service, because this is a great information to have. Are you getting pretty booked up, Officer Byrom?
So we're just now putting this information out, but we also teach a whole bunch of other classes, such as CRAZE, which is Civilian Response to Active Shooter Events, and Stop the Bleed. If we do both of those classes together, that's a 4 hour long class, stuff like that. We have, so this is Thursday, so in 2 days I have a couple of guys from one of our churches who is on the security team, their safety team. They're coming up to the police department to go through our shoot, don't shoot simulator that we have at the police department to help train their guys prepare for, something horrible that may happen to their church. That way they already have, foresight, I guess you could say, of training on what to do in case a situation were to happen.
Can I give you a couple of suggestions of where you can get the word out? One is Monday. I remember Melissa was here talking about their showcase they're having on February 24th. I bet you can get a spot there. You know, whatever other.
We're already there.
You're already
We're
there?
there.
Oh, good for you. You're already ahead of me. Also, I'm also obligating Chaz Forrester for a lot of things, but, you know, it'd be good to have a spot at the farmer's market one of those Saturdays.
Yeah, we're definitely working on that. And tonight, if you're watching this on, what's today's date? The 8th, February 8th, tonight from 4:30 to 6 at the Brick in Burleson is City Fest. And so all the different departments for the city are going to be there. You can meet your city council members and whatnot. But we will have a specific table for the Burleson Police Department and Officer Byrom and some of our other Crow officers and some of the awesome and amazing men and women of the Burleson Police Department will all be out there.
And you still have your contacts, I'm sure, with the city. You could,
I do.
You know,
I
you could
do.
probably talk to somebody for, you know, Hot Sounds of Summer. You could
Absolutely.
You know, or one of the, you know, big events we got coming up. We have a pub crawl in about 5 weeks. You know, for St. Patrick's Day. I mean, there's some stuff the city is going to give you a platform.
Well, now that we got that community engagement position out there, then we're going to be hitting a lot of stuff this year. So, unfortunately, that means it's a lot of work for you, Joe.
Absolutely.
Well, it keeps you out of trouble.
Absolutely does.
Keeps you off the internet, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that it does.
You know, I'd like to have you back on the show like late May, early June, because summer's coming and a lot of kids are by themselves.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of parents would like to know, how can I make sure that my kids aren't get involved in the stuff while I'm at work, you know, or when they're with their buddies,
Absolutely.
so that you can give us some tips about that. Sherry also said you ought to come to the park board meeting and do a presentation. See, you're going to get some business. Hopefully
Absolutely.
this show will get out, you know, and also I have in the next 3 weeks, I have Victoria Johnson, Deb McClendon, and a candidate for office, Alexa Boddicker, and I'll be saying, hey, we need to get city pushing on this hard, because this is something that we don't really even realize. I mean, I thought as a teacher, I had a handle on it, and y'all just expanded my thinking greatly today. So I hope this show goes viral. Not just for my own ego, but for y'all. You know.
We'll let your own ego take it.
Yeah, but it's okay. No, this is what it's about. So,
Absolutely.
and Collin's going to be a regular guest here, so he's going to be bringing others. Or
Yes,
okay.
absolutely. I already got some ideas for the next one.
Well, before you leave today, we'll find a time.
Okay.
All right, y'all take it away. Y'all close the show.
Oh, awesome. Well, hey, again, thanks, Mr. Allard, for allowing us to have this.
Oh, that's my pleasure, certainly.
Absolutely. And again, if this is something that you would like to see, at your church or any organization that you have, or even just having a conversation with one of our officers, you can reach out to us at CRO, that stands for Community Resource Officer, CRO at burlesontx.com. That's our email address. It'll go to all of us, and then these officers are really good at responding fairly quickly. And, we'll get these things set up, and Joe's a great teacher. He'll do a wonderful job.
Okay.
Thank you, sir, for having us. I really do appreciate the time.
No problem. We're going to see you again, because this is something that the community definitely needs to know.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, you share this with friends, particularly if they have teenage kids or about to be teenage kids, because it's worse now than it's ever been. And so we need to have this information out there. Tonight, by the time somebody will see this, it may be too late, but at 4:30, I'm having District Attorney Dale Hanna on. We're doing a special show. We wanted to have him on the show, but we were booked. So I said, no, Taylor and I said, we'll do an extra show, because this is also important. Mm-hmm. And so this is going to be a very full month. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, sir, for what you do. Thank you, Collin, for what you do.
Absolutely.
And this community is blessed to have this kind of police department. I can tell you that. Guys, I'll see you later today. And if not, I'll see you next Monday.